Johanse IODK, Behavioral Change Specialist, joins me on the Zoom line as per usual every Thursday. Always happy to see Johanse for our mental health matters. Johanse, morning.
Morning, Jason. Morning to all the viewers.
That's right, and I love the topic this week. It's that ongoing discussion, old school versus new school. Johanse, where do we start? I consider myself kind of old school, you know. However, I embrace the teachings of the new school because, I mean, you know, you must know what's happening via the new school. But if I had to choose a school, give me old school, you know.
Yeah, Jason, I agree with you. I am old school also by default because of my age. Just recently, I remember talking to my mom about using a swizzle stick. And my god sister, who was there with me, who in her early 20s, wasn't even too sure what a swizzle stick is. So it was a very interesting conversation. But I am bringing this up because sometimes we say old school better than new school, and new school people say new school better than old school. But I think a good consideration is understanding what worked well from what didn't work well. And I'm using it on a general plane for now because we could apply it to our own lives, family lives, the country, business, etc. But I would like everyone to consider what has worked to what didn't work versus what they are accustomed to and what they're not accustomed to.
But you know, new school will argue that when you look at the old school teachings, and again, let's say old school, for example, let's go to school with old school structure. When I went to school, and when you went to school, Johanse, I'm sure corporal punishment was part of the mix. You know, if you behave bad, licks. We've recognized now that that form of old school discipline didn't work because there were children who were getting licks at home, they're getting licks at school, so it's a full cycle of just licks and violence, and it would have impacted many. So new school decided to go a different direction. Mediation, guidance counselors, talking. So there are some components of the old school that new school will argue did not work, and it's the root cause of some of the problems we see today.
I agree with you, and the good thing, I'll say the good thing about old school is it happened over time. So we could actually see the results of what worked, what didn't work in terms of longitude. But some of the new school stuff, the methodologies now being put into place or maybe in place even 5 years, because 5 years is not even a long period to sometimes test something. So if we go in with corporal punishment, we could actually now test to see the results of it and any other method. So if, let's say if we go in old school recording versus computerization, right? There are some who would say, you know, we sure in terms of writing down stuff and we could see certain things, and let's say if it have no electricity, no internet, we could still access it. And then some would argue, because I remember when I went for renew my license the first time, I remember there was a big book. People had to go back in and look to see when I did my test, etc. And I don't think that was efficient. So understanding the differences between two, or even amalgamating the two, because you could have a little bit of old school with a little new school. So you could store stuff hard copy because just in case the internet fail or electricity fail, but you could also have the computerization to be a little more efficient.
You answer what you fed now, right? You know what I'm thinking about? What we're doing here today and your particular vocation is actually, I would say, new school, because the reality is mental health issues, talking about mental health, making it okay for a man to express himself. This is something that our grandfather and fathers, you can't bring that to them, you know. It's not something that would have been considered, but the man of today understands that, you know what, boy, this life that I'm trying to navigate sometimes could really be troublesome on the mind and the spirit. Best I probably seek a little professional help and talk this one out. Isn't what you're doing kind of new school, even though this profession has been around from, I guess, you know, donkey years, right? But more and more people now, when it comes to mental health issues and mental health discussions, it's a bit more normalized. I'm thinking this might be part of the new school.
I definitely agree with you, and that's a real good point. And even what we're doing here, we on Zoom, right? This is new school technology, etc. So we're utilizing the new school, but sitting and talking, men in a circle, men I'm using men now because you mentioned men or even people sitting and talking things out and reasoning with the elders and the village. That is old school. So we bring in somebody old school with the new school, and we have a perfect mix, and it's a good example of that amalgamation. But in order to do that, of course, we have to, everybody, the new school and the old school people, have to be open to the fact of joining it. And it's not a fight. It's not the old generation versus the new generation. It's us working together to ensure the country, a family, the school system, etc., working in a more efficient manner.
Well, last week I remember we spoke about leadership styles. What leadership style, based on your observation, as you navigate life, seems to work best? The old school standard or that new school? Because there are some leaders stuck in their ways. They're changing. That's how they know it. That's how it worked back then. It's broken, so we're not trying to fix it. And then there are those who are willing to take risk and go different directions with a new school approach and perspective.
I still go in with the mix in between, because the style where is my way or is no one's way, it worked in the past. And I would say if it worked in the past, what you say now, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? I agree with that to an extent, but if you allow some of the new schools, so let's just say taking notes in a meeting, you're taking the minutes, that work because you could get everything done. But nowadays, I remember I did a session on one of my clients say, sir, we could let it run through the AI, and the AI will write the entire notes for you, etc. So the process of taking the notes or the minutes is the old school method, which work, but the new school way, which is probably the AI doing it, could be a little more efficient. So it is having the open mind to actually want progress, even though what worked before, even though what you were doing before worked well. And I say that too in terms of even our own mental health as a nation, as a people, because we know how certain things work, and definitely, listen, we know that certain things are not working, that didn't work, etc. So it's time to do something new.
Well, let me tell you, right, I want to put a next twist on it, because I always love to bring it back to the dating game, to romance. It's one that we could all relate to. So I recall I was very young at the time, and I grew up old school. Manners, respect, understanding, at least based on what you've been told or what TV and the books would have suggested. That's how you go about it when you ask a lady out on a date. And I remember I was about probably 18, 19. I was very young at the time, and I wanted to do a picnic and lay out the mat and bubble a little pot at home. And the girl tell me, what is that? Kind of picnic thing. So I wonder if our old school approach to romance, going into a new school person, trying to meet somewhere in the middle, if it's going to work, or should old school stick with old school and new school stick with new school when it comes to romantic endeavors? Because old school, I don't feel old school and new school. What we might want to do and the approach and that romance and that image, tell some girl what is steam. I don't have time with all of that.
Well, okay, human dynamics is something very intricate. So it may not have an exact formula, but let me use that. You have an old school method, and you're using it, like we say, with new school people, and some may like it, some wouldn't. That would also depend on the kind of girl you want, because you may want a girl who like a picnic, but you're asking the wrong girl, so it may indicate to you is the wrong type of person. So right method for you, wrong person. And if you're okay with your method, you continue using your method. But now, if you notice that your method, even though you stick into it, not working, then you may have to reconsider. But if it's one or two people, it may not be the girl for you, or may not be the man for you.
Hey, as you always say, Johan, say life is not, what do you say, life is
not easy, but it's really not that hard.
Yes, I love it. I'll make a note, man. We're gonna wrap things up. We can out of time today, but thanks a lot, man, for that great perspective, old school versus new school. And God spare, we'll have the discussion again very soon. All the best, you want to say.
Right, Jason. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for viewing.
For sure. Mental health matters. Mental health matters. Conclusion there on this Thursday. We take a break and we come back with the birthday brew. Then your morning shot with Ian Wason. Stand by.